Welcome to week 6 of Organizational Learning Channels of Influence, Leaders and Teams. Presented to you by Ashley, Karma, Carla, and Bree. Do you confuse organizational learning with a learning organization? If so, you are not alone in that they are similar but differ slightly. We will elucidate the comparable intricacies of the two concepts and focus on the factors that contribute to an effective learning organization, the role and characteristics of leaders and their influence on organizational learning, and finally, the role of followers and teams in the learning process. At the end of this presentation, learners will be able to define and critique the differences and interdependencies of organizational learning and a learning organization. Additionally, learners will be able to articulate and critique the impact of leadership and psychological safety within teams and define if and how a shared vision impacts a learning environment at the individual, team, and organizational level. Berson, Das, and Waldman define organizational learning as a collaborative process that requires a shared vision and trust, a free exchange of information, and an environment that fosters and encourages both formal and informal learning. In contrast, the concept of a learning organization is essentially characterized by the effectiveness of reflective, environmental aspects that continuously promote new ways of thinking, in which people are learning how to learn together and perpetually lead to the organizational learning process. Simply put, a plan must exist for organizational learning, and learning organizations take action on such a plan. Berson et al. Believes that charismatic leadership that values and actively makes time to promote a learning environment and focuses on creating a shared vision and atmosphere of trust among their team gets translated to organizational learning climate. Simply communicating a shared vision is not enough. Leaders must also prioritize learning so it is not lost in the day-to-day activities. In other words, leaders create and reinforce opportunities for learning. Berson et al. Suggests that effective learning happens in a psychologically safe environment and includes programs that are crafted and tailored to drive learning processes at multiple levels in an organization. According to Garvin et al. In Psychological Safety, team members take risks and explore the unknown. They feel safe disagreeing with others, asking naive questions, owning up to mistakes, and presenting minority viewpoints. It is also argued that leader effectiveness may be a critical dimension of an individual's sense of psychological safety and their ability to grow and adapt at work. Therefore, employee opinion of workplace safety and their perception of leadership effectiveness influences not only learning, but also a leader's ability to motivate and implement change. While Berson et al. Focused on charismatic leadership, we were left wondering how other leadership styles, i.e., transformational, authentic, situational, etc., might impact organizational learning. We suggest that leaders, through their leadership style and philosophy, must not only be skilled communicators, but also be able to articulate a compelling vision, create trust among followers, and create trust between the leaders and followers. Berson et al. Noted that leaders stimulate and support a climate of learning by creating a work environment that promotes the framework and environment that allows teams to build trust among one another and thereby increase organizational learning. Individuals and teams also have a responsibility to develop and foster a learning environment. Certainly, leaders play a vital role in developing an environment that encourages learning. However, leaders are only leaders when they have followers, and followers can increase learning effectiveness by taking interpersonal risks, such as speaking up, asking for help, or demonstrating vulnerability in a team setting. These risks can contribute to creating an environment of psychological safety and ultimately learning with appropriate facilitation. Colleagues and team members who are comfortable speaking up and interacting with others can improve not only organizational effectiveness, but they also promote learning in diverse environments. As leaders, followers, and learners, there are many ways in which we engage in both formal and informal learning. Designing mechanisms and frameworks that create a sustainable learning environment allow for both exploration and exploitation of learning across teams and organizations. Certainly, this is easier said than done. Still, we argue that effective learning occurs when leaders foster an environment that values learning, a psychologically safe environment that encourages the sharing and exploration of diverse ideas, a proactive team of followers that engage in formal and informal learning, and a process for continuous review and improvement of organizational learning. Similar to Berson et al., a 2016 article found in Psychology Today looked at the link between trust, teams, and the leadership in the workplace. This article introduced an interesting quiz to give leaders a glimpse of how much trust currency you have in your immediate work culture. Are you curious about how much trust currency you have in your immediate work culture? Take the quiz here and get immediate results. We have 2 questions to discuss this week. First, this week's article focused on the role and impact of charismatic leaders. Leadership expert Peter Northouse said this type of leadership has not adequately linked the traits of leaders with other outcomes such as group and team performance. Are there leader characteristics that are vital for the creation of a learning environment that may or may not be found solely in charismatic leadership? Explain. Next, besides creating a shared vision and trust among followers, what else can leaders do to develop a culture of learning? Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your participation this week on the